Please, let's welcome Mr. Sam.
So this morning we're going to go through a minor course we call change. Navigating change with confidence. Navigating change with confidence. And one of the hardest things that all of us would agree, because I know we've built our careers from level to level, is that change is one of the most difficult things to do for humankind. Although one of the constant things, it is again one of the most difficult things to do. I want to challenge us, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, that one of the reasons we're in this room today is to begin to rewrite the histories of our respective organizations, to begin to build a formidable institution that in the day you are no more, in the day you are not in that space anymore, persons would have risen to continue your legacies. One of the things we are here to do this morning is not to x-ray the challenges in our organization from the vistas of the people that work in it. We are here this morning and in the next 3 days to look at these things from our own vistas. If a story was told of a man who went to the ocean side, or the riverside as it were, and every time the ocean current blows, it comes out with a lot of fishes. How many of us remember that story? And then the man will pick one of the fish and stone it back. Every time that happens, he will pick one of the fish and throw it back. And then a young child went to him and said, "But sir, you can't save all the fishes." And then the old man picked another fish and threw it back and said, "Yes, I can't save all the fishes, but I just saved that." Why am I saying that story? Sometimes the challenges we have in our organization is not with the people working in it. Sometimes those challenges we see begins from how we see things as individuals. It begins from how we interpret situations. It begins from how we respond to the changes around us. Sometimes a number of people have given up their dreams because at the verge of climbing it, something happened and they packed up. At the verge of hitting a breakthrough, they encountered something they didn't expect and they packed up and everything went like that. I've always told people, don't tell me why you couldn't, a thing was not done. Don't tell me the reason you couldn't achieve BSc was because your parents didn't go to school and they don't have money to send you to school. We already know what the problem is. The question is, what are you doing to change those problems? Change is one of the hardest things, ladies and gentlemen. Change is one of the most difficult things. Change is one of the things that when it occurs, I guarantee you, there are tons of things we cannot do. But the most important thing we should know is that in these few days, we will begin to embrace a new way of doing things. We will begin to see how we can, digress and begin to embrace the new strategies of getting things done. Now, we're going to be reviewing strategies for effective leadership in uncertain times. At times like this, you wake up in the morning, and how many of us remember the COVID-19? You went to bed a night before, woke up that morning, and they told you nobody's coming to work. Everybody's mandated to stay home. And for some reasons, certain things couldn't be done. Certain changes were made. But in the midst of all of these things, how do we respond to these things? Not just by ourselves, how do we help the people around us to respond to this? Before I jump into this course, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. If you have people, whether children or in the organization, who are looking up to you, you must be very careful. When people are looking up to you, if you work in an organization where people look up to you, you must be careful the kinds of life you live. You must be careful the kinds of decisions you take. You must be careful the kinds of footprints you leave behind. Ladies and gentlemen, a number of people, as a result of anger and temperament, have unleashed woes that is shaking the entire universe till tomorrow. And one of the reasons this course is important as a leader is that when people are looking up to you, whether your child, whether somebody in your house, whether somebody in your team, when people are looking up to you, you must be careful. Because at that instance, you become a teacher, even without being called one. As a GM in a department, people are looking up to you. The decisions you're taking, people are looking up to you. When you're angry, the things you say, they hear you. They copy it at every interval. And the point is that whether or not you like it, remember, they said people will forget what you tell them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Every single thing you're doing, somebody is looking up to you. Somebody is watching how you interpreted the situation. Somebody is interpreting exactly what you did when you were hot. Somebody saw exactly the reactions you take. And then an opportunity is availed to the person, and then they repeat exactly the same thing. I have taught this all my life. For most of us in this room, whether Hausa or Igbo, we know what Ubanka or Uwaka means. The truth is, does anybody sit down and say, from tomorrow, I will start using Uwaka, Ubanka? What happens? They hang around an environment where those things are used most often. And when something happens, they begin to use that same thing. It could be a language, it could be a way you speak, it could be a way you walk. As a leader, you come into the office every morning, the way you shake people, a subordinate is looking at you. They are copying everything you do. And the very slightest instance they get an opportunity, they begin to behave just the way you do. Either the way you speak, or the way you carry yourself, or the way you value yourself, or the way you don't look down on people. In organizations, every leader, every follower in organization knows the leaders they can approach, and they knows the one they cannot approach. They will tell you, if he comes to Mr. A, leave his matter. Mr. A is not a very friendly person. But one person that we can all deal with in this organization is Mr. So, and Mr. So, and Mrs. So, and Mrs. So. When it comes to certain critical matters, they know they can confide in you. But there are issues that when it happens, as a leader, nobody wants to even confide in you. Nobody even wants to get close to you. Because before you know it, that thing they confided in you in is going to be out and everybody is going to hear it. I give a clear example. One moment I canceled a staff member of an organization. What was his issue? She had a very terrible issue and confided in her HR. And the next morning, the HR during the general meeting in the morning used her for example. Every single thing he had confided in her in came out on the limelight. And every day she works in that organization, burying her face to the ground until the day she resigned. As leaders, every single decision, every single action, every single thing you do is impacting the life of someone. How you approach change, your mindset, everything you do affects the life of someone. As a father, your child is watching you. All of a sudden, you begin to see tendencies that are likened to the things you did when you were growing up in that same child. They are watching the way you talk to their mother. They are watching the way, as a mother, you talk to the father. They are watching all of these things. And it has been proven that most often than not, people do what they see people do rather than what they were told or what they are told to do. Now, this morning, ladies and gentlemen, we will be diving into this course, which is very dear to my heart. Change. For some of us, the things we need to transform our organization 360 degrees, whether in behavior, whether in character, whether in how things are done in systems, all boils down to change. How do we approach change? How do we handle change? When it gets to your turn to change, do you find reasons why it shouldn't happen? By giving excuses. Oh, the problem is not mine. The problem is definitely not mine. The problem is with them. Now let's jump into the course quickly. Now, we will be looking at our objective will be very simple. Equipping leaders with actionable strategies to confidently lead teams and organizations through uncertainty while fostering adaptability and resilience. We will also try to look at confidence in navigating change. Remember, I said that this change could be with us. One of the common things I want us to do before the end of this meeting is to write down the kind of leader you want to be. In the day you are going to bow out in whatever work life you are having currently, in the day you are going to sign out, what kind of leader do you want people to be, do you want to be remembered of? What exactly in the minds of people, when they say Mrs. Thelma, for example, what do you want people to remember you of? It could be in 30 years. You might be resigning in 20 years. For some of us, 10 years. For some of us, maybe 5 or in the next 15 years. But ask yourself, the day I'm going to bow out of this position, what do I want to be remembered of? A leader that motivated people to become their best, or a leader who, out of indiscipline, a leader who, out of stubbornness and resisting all forms of change, have sent people into oblivion. A leader who's because of your single attitude, a number of people have given up their dreams. What kind of a leader do you want to be remembered of? This is when you begin, from meetings like this, you note it down. By the end of my journey, I would sign my name, Emmanuel Sensam. Anywhere you say that name, people shed tears of joy, because when I came across you or the person, your life didn't remain the same. What kind of a leader do you want to be? At the end of your journey, would you raise mentors in that organization, or mentees rather? Or by the end of your journey, a number of people have given up their dreams because of certain cruel or because of certain insistent on the things you think you know. It's going to be a very interesting course this morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like us to contribute even as some activities will be coming our way. Number 3, we'll look at understanding critical importance of change, and then we will look at fostering a mindset of adaptability, and then balancing organization goals and stakeholder expectation. Then this, which is very important, framework on how to navigate change. What is change management? I will say this, and then I will take a brief test. Change management is a structured approach to transitioning individuals, teams, and organizations from a current state to a desired future. So, key question: the state of your respective institutions, whether your organizations or your institutions, because I know we have people from diverse, even from Federal Ministry of Work, I know we have people here. So the current state of your department, the current state of your institution, are you happy with what you're seeing? Does your organization at the current state desire or require change? The institution you are representing, do you honestly desire change? What kind of culture, what kind of behavior can you get in around and amongst your team? Does your team deliver on time despite giving them all resources? When it comes to time management, even you as a boss, are you that disciplined? When you say we are going to do something, are you that kind of a boss that stands until that thing is done? If your organization requires change, then the journey for you has just begun. Every time you sleep and wake up, you see, sometimes I lead a team, and when culture begins to contend with the things we see, our goal is to become the leading management consulting company in the entire West Africa by 2030. And then sometimes a consulting analyst presents something, and then I ask her one key question. The leaders of our industry is McKinsey. One of the leaders of our industry is Ernst & Young. Would you do this presentation in Ernst & Young? If you stand before a consulting analyst in Ernst & Young, can you match their energy? If they put you in the same room, for example, as the, let's say, head of services of a particular department in your industry against your competitor, can you still deliver? Can you still stand when other professors stand? When doctors stand and they are giving their as a doctor, for example, when other doctors from Harvard stand and are speaking, would you hide your doctorate degree, or would you stand and contribute your own quota? I will always challenge them. Every time you subtly think about that in your head and think about what you're about to present and it doesn't match, then go back home. There's a lot of job undone. So one of the mantras in our organization is that in GMPC, we don't sleep. I tell them, let's not play with it. We stay until the job is done. It's a culture of excellence. It's a culture of discipline. And there's no compromise. So you have two options. It's either you stay or you use the door. There is no mediocrity. There is no average mindset. And so if you desire change, if you desire to move forward, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this change I'm talking about could be in your home. You see, because I personally believe that the place where every form of leadership begins is the home. It's a personal belief. If you have a disruptive, back in those days in secondary school, there's this teacher that every time her husband will beat her. And the day her husband beats her, she comes to class. Forget it. Everybody's in trouble. Because you will see her with her dark shades, maybe a punch as, and then you see her with the dark, everybody in that class is in deep shade. And guess what? These things eventually started happening that anytime she comes in that state, some students want to leave the class. You see one of the ripple effect of not handling change carefully. So the point is, you are coming from a battered home. There are chances that even in the organization you work, all of those things are going to flow out. If you have a fight with your husband, or if you have a fight with your wife, we're going to deal with that on emotional intelligence, and you don't know how to keep home in the house and carry office to the office, you will, because of what your wife said to you, how angry you were before you leave the house, pounce on an employee who didn't do anything to you. And remember, I said, people will forget everything you tell them, but they will never forget how you make them feel. It's true. They will never forget it. And so you don't know how to manage these things. I guarantee you, you are going to raise walls around you. And every time your name is said, people fear. They quiver, not because they quiver for respect. They quiver because you have sent an emotional destabilization in their brain. Change. It is something that everybody must embrace, irrespective of our level. And then what are the key elements? People. Yeah, people. Having employees and stakeholders navigate change with effective communication, training, and support. If you are a leader here, which I believe that 90% of our audience here are leaders, people are looking up to you. You are not just I don't want to call the name of your office. You are also a mentor. You are also a coach. You are also a guardian in your respective place of work. People are looking up to you. Younger staff that are starting their journey are looking up to you. They are not there for you to rub your failures on them. You know there are leaders that because of they tried something and it didn't happen, every other person in their lineage are going to go through the same. It's true, even of parents. Some of the things you tried to achieve and you couldn't get it, you will stop your children from getting it. This is why we need to be careful, especially when it comes to change. What is the element number 2? Processes. Developing frameworks and tools to implement and sustain the change. Change is not just changing alone, but how is it going to outlive you? I have said it. In that department where you are the leader, where you are the boss, where you tell everybody to do, what are the things that 10 years after you've left that organization, they cannot change it because there is no any other framework that can surpass it. Because somebody sat down and saw 20 years from today and started behaving well. And the last thing, outcome. What does it mean? Ensuring that change achieves its goal and aligns with organization vision. Every single thing we do, including change in technology, if it doesn't make us or lead us to becoming the leading in West Africa by 2030, is a waste of our time, so forget about it. Now, moving on, something very dear to me I would like for us to quickly do this morning, which is, can you move on, please? Good, good. Which is change mindset. Now, we are going to take this, and you will tell us where you are. I know it's a bit tiny, but I'll read it out. So we have 2 kinds of mindsets. I'm going to read it out, and you will answer for yourself. Which one is exactly where I play? The number 1 mindset is fixed. What does a fixed mindset? Somebody who has a fixed mindset, what does he think? The person tells you, a challenge is a test I pass or I fail. Based on my inherent ability, if I am not already good at something, I will not do well. And what does his friend say? Let's hear what Growth says. Growth says, I can learn to do anything I want. Challenges and mistakes are opportunities for learning and development. Which of the mindsets are you? Okay, second, growth. Nobody is fixed here. No, you can't just say no. You have to answer for yourself. No. Okay, nobody's at fixed. But interesting, I hope we're getting the gist. Number 2, let's hear what an expert mindset says. This guy sees himself as an expert. Let's hear what he tells himself. He says to himself, I should already know the answer. I should perform during a challenge by having the answers. He believes that if he doesn't have the answers, forget about it. Let's hear what his friend talks about. His friend says, curious. What does curious say? I am going to ask a lot of questions, explore and discover. I can learn a lot from trying something new. Where are you? Curious. Oh dear. Let's make progress. Reactive. Let's see what this reactive guy tells himself. He says to himself, I need to identify the problem and what is causing it so I can apply tested, well-practiced solutions to bring the situation under control. Let's hear what his friend says. His friend says, creative. He says, I need to lead with purpose. I will empower myself and others to explore new possibilities and experiment our way to an innovative solution. Where are you? Creative. Oh dear, no, somebody must be somebody. Somebody must be reactive. Somebody must be reactive. What about the victim mindset? Here what the victim mindset tells themselves. They said to themselves, there are many factors beyond my control. You have these people in your team, respectfully speaking, that affect my ability to thrive, grow, and get things done. There are people in your team that every time you give them assignment, they must come back with an excuse why it's not done. How many of you agree with that? It's a mindset. You see where, as a leader, you shout on the person simply because you do not understand that these things are mindset that requires a bit of tweak. You yelled, can I shock you, man? You fired them. You asked them to leave the organization. What is the neighbor saying? Agent. He says, within reason, I believe in my ability to learn new things, overcome challenges, and accomplish just about anything I put my mind. Where are we? Do we have people like this in our team? Let's say the people are not here. They are in the team. Okay, we have them in our team, but they are not here. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Scarcity. Let's listen to scarcity. The guy tells himself, a challenge typically involves limited resources, hard choices, and the trade-offs that must be made. Abundance says a challenge is typically a potential win-win situation looking to be discovered. You see, the truth is, gentlemen, why most people are caught off guard, even in pursuing the things they want to pursue in life, is that you're doing that thing and suddenly a challenge hits you. And when it happens, you didn't plan it. You wake up in that blessed morning, you finish dressing, walk to the office, and met one heavy challenge. How you reacted changed the course of everything. Somebody just offended you. Are you stupid? You're very useless. And then you included their parent in the stuff. And then the guy is wondering, what's going on? Challenges are inevitable. Changes are inevitable. Let me give you an example. 2 weeks to this training, CBN just wrote us, and these things are human beings behind it. A facility we have been using for our training, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks to the event, 8 days to the event, woke up and told us that we are sorry, we are renovating that facility. 8 days. This was after 3 months of writing it. So how do you deal with that kind of a change? So sometimes you go, you guys are not professional, you shout and shout and shout, but does that solve the problem at hand? What's the way forward? How do we wriggle out of this? We didn't plan for this to happen, but unfortunately, it has happened. One of my key instructions to every member of my team, once a milk is spilled, don't come telling me reasons why. Don't tell me the milk has already spilled. We can't gather it back. How do we move forward from here? That's what I want to hear. That's the first question. Second question, I ask them, what has that spilling that milk? What did it teach you? What did you learn? Because you actually, the milk truly spilled when you didn't learn anything from what caused it to spill. And lastly, certainty. It says, I would rather things go according to plan than take a detour that may end up better. This is how this guy thinks. How does exploration think? The guy says, and the truth is, if you don't know these things, some people within your team, now let me tell you the danger of this thing. If a leader is thinking like this, you are going to kill the career of an employee who thinks like this. It's true. I'm telling you, it's very true. If a leader is thinking like this, there are 100% chances that if a member of your team attempts to think like this, you will stifle them. You will hold them back. That's the unfortunate thing. And lastly, protection. I need to prevent something bad from happening. Opportunity, I could make something great to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, these are human beings for you. There are humans represented in each of these groups. I'm telling you the honest truth. There are people represented here. Let's move forward, Francis. So understanding change and its impacts, let's just go straight to the point because now types of changes. We have 2 kinds of changes we're going to look at in this meeting. Number 1, internal changes. What are they? Internal changes occurs within the organization and can have significant impact on culture, operations, and overall effectiveness. Internal changes. For some of us in the organization, let's look at it and see what it entails. Number 1, what are the types? Shift in objective or focus. So they told you that, for example, for those of us in the operations side of the business, they told you that we want to focus, we're expanding to the north. And you woke up the next morning, they say, we're no longer expanding to the north. We want to shift that to the south. How do you handle that kind of a change? It says changes in strategic goal can lead to the expansion, reduction, or reorientation of focus. How do you handle it? How do you navigate through it? The next kind of change that is internally related is staff turnover. And sincerely speaking, if you are here listening to the sound of my voice and you have people come to your organization and leave, they come and leave, they come and leave, you're not doing yourself any good. Every organization should think sustainability. What kind of change or what are the impact of staff turnover? High turnover rates can disrupt team dynamics, reduce institutional knowledge, and increase the burden on remaining staff. It may also lead to challenges in maintaining continuity and consistency in deliveries. People come in your team today, after 1 year they leave you. They come again, after 1 year they leave you. It's impact, you don't know what you're losing. You see, because when you are missing out on what you call the law of mastery. People get better over time when they do something repeatedly. Is that not correct? Now, when they come, after 1 year, they leave you. Where exactly are they? They are carrying that into the next organization. So succession planning is something organizations shouldn't joke with. Right now, who should succeed you, even in your department? I know some people are saying, do you want to retire me on time? But the truth is that every good succession planning begins the day you start that job as a leader. Who is going to succeed me? If I step out of this office right now, who will continue my legacies? And I've always said it. If you don't do these things, your legacies will die. The very day you resigned, so does your legacy. That same day it dies. If you don't begin to raise the next generation of people that are going to continue what you're doing, even in your families, they will die. All your good work. And so, as much as we can, staff turnover is something you shouldn't joke with. And then lastly, next one says organizational restructuring. What are the kind of changes? Changes in organizational structure, such as mergers, acquisition, etc. These things can cause a lot of, it can bring about changes. And when it happens, what do you do? How do you navigate it? Lastly, the kind of internal change is leadership change. This is very important. And that's why all of us are here. Because all of us sitting in this room are leaders in our respective capacities. I believe from our surveys that at least the least amongst us here like have 2-3 persons reporting to you, either directly or indirectly. What does it include? The arrival or departure of key leaders can influence organizational direction. And that's what I'm talking about, sustainability. It says culture and decision-making processes. Leadership change often requires a reassessment of organizational vision, strategies, and value. These are examples of internal changes. The other kind of change we are looking at is external. And in external, we don't have much things we are going to do. There is nothing much you are going to do because external changes refers to shifts in the external environment that can impact your operation as an organization. For some of us, it could be, policies made at the ministry level. For some of us, it could be government regulation. For some of us, it could be policies. For some of us, a number of things. These things we don't have direct control over. You just woke up and they told you. There's nothing much you can do. But when these changes occur, the key question we're asking ourselves as leaders is, how are you interpreting it, number one? And number two, what are you doing to ensure that it doesn't shift or shake everything you're doing or the things you're pursuing as a leader? How do you renavigate? What are the types of change under this? Political shift. We all know that. When a new government comes in and another government comes in. I've often said this. There are states in Nigeria where if a PDP government comes to power and goes, an APC person comes in, all the project the PDP guy started will be abandoned. If you check it, you will see a lot of abandoned projects of leaders that came, and just because they're not in the same political party. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, some people even still bring this thing in the organization. Next, economic downturns. You can't do anything about it. You woke up and fuel from 500 naira is 1,100. There's nothing you can do about it. How do we readjust? Lastly, technological advancement. I've often given this, analogy. You remember before now, for those of you that watch movies, if you want to capture what you call the bird view, you need to send an helicopter up there with the cameraman. So the helicopter is up there, whilst he's doing his stuff, the cameraman is trying to capture bird view. Those two guys went to bed, woke up the next morning, and saw one small boy with drone doing exactly the same thing. And guess what? They lost their jobs. So whilst the guy is there kicking the helicopter and warming it up, the guy has finished flying the drone and has finished capturing everything even before they take off. He can do it faster, he can do it better, he can do it even more efficiently. When these things happen, organizations are, in fact, some organizations don't survive it. So you must be at the forefront of the helms of affairs. What are the psychological effects of change? When change happens, what happens? First of all, these are the stages. People start denying. It's not happening. You begin to see, even in your children, you begin to see certain trappings, certain changes, even in your staff or the people who report to you. But you first of all live in denial. Initial stages, individual may resist accepting that change is happening. They might downplay its significance or hope that the situation will return to its normal. The thing is happening. You are beginning to notice certain things changing, but you're denying it. You're telling yourself, no, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. And unfortunately, that is how we came here as a country. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. We started living in denial until this became our reality. What happens in the next stage? Resistance. In resistance, what happens? As the reality of changes become more apparent, individuals may resist, fearing the unknown or potential negative consequences. ChatGPT came out. Some people are saying it's for Gen Zs. Some people are saying, what? And that thing gradually is changing the way work is done. They give you a project to take 3 weeks. That same Gen Z that is working in your department take 2 days or less. And this thing is happening. You're telling yourself, guys, you are watching people adopt this thing every day. Millions and hundreds of people are doing this thing. You're telling yourself it's not happening. You keep resisting it. And somewhere in your mind thinking that, the one that should remain. All of those things are waste of time. We will come back to what it used to be. And things are gradually shifting. They give you work, you take 3 weeks. A Gen Z person sits down. In 2 days, they bring better result, clean and efficient. So instead of you to find how you can marry human intelligence with artificial intelligence, you resisted the change. Number 3 stage, exploration. What happens? Over time, individuals begin to explore the implication of the change and consider how they might adapt. At this particular point, you don't have much challenge. You don't have much option. So the next question is, Mr. Sam, what do you think we should do? And then lastly, acceptance. Imagine you go through all of these things before you see that things are moving with speed of light. So one of the key actions we want to take, or want leaders to take after these 3 days, because it's going to be a very interesting 3 days, is that you begin to have a rethink on how you accept these things when they begin to happen. And you have to be meticulous enough to trail these changes as they begin to occur in our respective organization. Moving on. What is the impact of change on performance? Stress. Yeah. Impact of change on performance. Stress. Stress. A lot of people don't know how to react. Not everybody can take change immediately. For example, these courses, or during the time of these courses, we are going to stay long. A number of things is going to happen. Not everybody has mastered the art of staying or pushing through all of the stress that it comes with. Stress is one of the key things that comes with change. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, the truth, or one of the key questions I want to ask you, would you rather, because of all of these things, remain oblivious to the fact that you need to act immediately? Or would you rather fold your sleeves despite all of these things, go through it, and come out refined in the end? The stage 2 is uncertainty. What does change do? Change often brings uncertainty. For example, people are asking, will AI take the work of human beings? Nobody knows what is going on. But there's a new report that's been published recently where they said AI is going to create over 9 billion or so jobs, 7 billion jobs. So uncertainty, nobody knows what this change is going to bring about. If I become friendly with my team now, they might disrespect me. They might start looking down on me. They might start, and for all we know, these things are might. The next impact of change, motivation. The way change is managed can either increase or decrease motivation. Maybe people will stop coming to work. Not necessarily. They stop. When they even come to meetings, they don't give you attention. But all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, whether change, whether stress, whether uncertainty, whether motivation, whether morale, the most important thing we should know is that all of these things are pertinent with change. If you need true change, these things are non-negotiable. You can't avoid them. The only thing you need to do is how do we manage them and get over the other side. Now, moving on, because I really don't want to keep us so that the breakfast doesn't get cold. What does it mean to lead through change? What does it mean to lead through change? Leading through change means guiding and supporting others to navigate uncertainties. I have said it here by way of my introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants and leaders, people under your respective departments and organizations are looking up to you. People, some way, somehow. I've had times I work with teams And somebody told me, not once, not twice, not 3 times, I've lost count, that some of the things I've learned are working with you, respectfully speaking, even with my parents, I didn't learn them. People are looking up to you. Your position of power is supposed to be used to bring in as many as possible to the path where they should be going to. That you have now been made or given power is not an avenue to fold your sleeves, and what you do is by pointing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, follow me. Have you greeted me this morning? These are not why you have power. Part of the reasons you have power is that you insist on somebody who came into your organization with crude behavior. They can't even differentiate their left from their right. You fix them on the path with your authority. And every time they remember you, they would never forget you in their story. Their success story is not complete until your name is mentioned. When I was working in the bank in 2012, before I left, there is this boss I have. Every single time you make a mistake, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, if you are tired of this job, drop your resignation and get out. Whether you are sick, whether you are dying. He says the only way he's going to give you permission is that you came to the office and you were working and you slump. And you think it's a joke? People are slump. I mean, you don't have an option. You reported to the office every now and then.
Yeah, this reminds me of some of these leaders that we have now. That's why people insisting that we should have leaders based on merit.
Yeah.
If you bring people maybe based on research,
Yes, yes. We will definitely, in transformational leadership, we will definitely get there. There's a lot of things we want to take. Why we're even taking change is because in the few days we're going to be discussing, some of these courses would warrant you to make some adjustments in your career. That's the honest truth. And that's why we started with it. It can be very boring, but that's the first place we need to start. Because in transformational leadership, you would hear things that will rattle your ideologies. But change is one of the key and the most difficult things. One of the reasons we take it is, if we don't do it, there are something they will say, this one is not me. This one is not me. That's why we are taking, everybody needs change. Except you are comfortable in your kind of leadership style. So just like he said, we have an entire society, respectfully speaking. I was privileged to have a meeting with one of the governors. And then I was asking him, I said, why are governors behaving like this? You come into power, and then you want to appoint a special assistant on economic matters. And you call somebody who read SLT that knows nothing about economic situations to advise you. What would the person tell you? All your special advisors have zero clue on the offices you've appointed them. To tell you what? If you've attended most of our training, one of the core guiding principles and slogan in our organization is, it does not make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people to what? To tell us what to do. If I have you in my team as an assistant, and I'm still thinking for you, why are you assisting me? If I have you in the company as an office assistant, and I go to the toilet, there's no tissue, why are you sitting here? Why are we paying you? And so we have had leaders that had produced mediocre people, all in the name of favoritism, nepotism, and all some sort of political debris. And an entire institution and system should be shut down because a leader decided to do the wrong thing. And do you know where it begins? It begins in the house. How many of you have seen two small children walking? One mother has given him biscuit, and then he saw another child crying, and then collects the biscuit and gives the other child who is crying. The mother calls him, you stupid boy, a very useless boy. You're giving your biscuit, I bought you to another child. What are you teaching the child? No. What are you teaching that child? You eventually indoctrinate him. It is, take your share, I take my share. And he grows with it to become what? Mr. Almael. What does he become? And then he now finds himself in a seat. Power has been handed over to him. He has the power to sign and to unsign.
there's this saying in our own country, most of our brothers, say, "Asotanka duniya da kishi, idanka duniya da kishi."
It's deep. Can you give us proverbial interpretation? Like your child, and the world will reject him.
Yeah, like your child, the world will reject him.
Reject your child, and the world will love him. Is that not right?
Yes, if you like your child so much, the world will reject him.
Because I'm guessing you will pamper him into oblivion, yeah? Yes. Yeah. You will spoil him. Yeah, you will spoil him. And you see, the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, every armed robber walking in the street is a function of another man's programming. Like it or not. I met a person who swore that he doesn't care about human lives. Yeah. In the same vein, when a man stands and he says he's a professor, and when he speaks with so much eloquence and power, zest and prowess, people clap and salute. Another person programmed that person. They picked up their mindset somewhere, mostly from the house. I love it when one of the presidents came to the nation and said, change begins with you. That's what we're doing in this room today. We might not be able to save all the fish, but let's save one, and the next one, and the next one. And so every leader here, you owe it to yourself. You go back to your organization. Decide, determine to be the next person everybody in your organization is looking up to. Start with your job. You see, the truth is that, leaders can be lazy sometimes. Eh? You can be lazy. There are leaders that demand from subordinates what they cannot do. It's true. So, it's easier to give instructions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure, it's easier that way. Yeah, it's very easy that way. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come. It's very easy. Even though delegation is not cheap. But the truth is that if you ask yourself, how many of you know that it's easier to mark than to answer the exam questions? All of us, of course, the truth. All of us at some point to examine. Okay, so no, we're going to get to contribution, but let's jump. We need to finish this. No, we have a class activity briefly before we go to. So that's why I'm trying to catch up time. So, ladies and gentlemen, leading through change means that you are guiding, you are supporting, and you're helping people navigate uncertainties. Listen, not everybody working in your team is a useless person. Some of them are battling things from home you don't understand. They are not as bad as you think. It's true. And you see, when you do these things, your people will become loyal to you. Loyalty is to death. I've seen things like that. If they call your name in a room in the wrong way, they will remove their shirt and fight on your behalf. It's true. I'm not talking about raising psychophants. I'm not talking about the people that love you because of the things you give them. No. Genuinely. They knew that their lives were headed to doom until you intercepted. In fact, when you hired them into your organization, their one purpose was to come here and wreck it dry. But you met them some way, somehow. The things you shared with them, how you took them, interrupted the advancement in that menace. Only you is enough to bring change in that organization. Let's begin with you. How do we do that? You say, I'm going to be there by 1 o'clock. Everybody knows that whether anything is happening, 1 o'clock you're there. I've humorously always told my team, I said, if we tell a client that we're going to submit their job by 10 a.m., and then you are the one we assigned it, at 9:50, you died. At 9:55, they are burying you. By 9:56, when you're going down the grave, hold your assignment like this, and before they complete burying you, so that they will collect it, and they will say he finished it before he passed. And by 10 o'clock, when you say something, let your word be your bond. Esteemed leaders, respectfully speaking, there are still people in this room, leaders at their level, that still tell white lies. I'm in Ghana right now. Hey, Cameroon. In this room. And guess what? Your subordinates are watching. You laughed about it. But you sent a heavy message. Have you submitted the report? Oh, okay. Yes, check your email. You have not sent the report. You are asking them to check their email. But the report, then when they said, I didn't see anything, say check your spam. Check which spam, when you didn't send any email. It's network. And unfortunately, you see, one time I traveled, I think it was in South Africa, I realized, because how is it that you trust persons on the spot? I was asking the lady, in the country where I come from, you don't trust people like that. Hand me all your phones and your bag and go to the restroom to ease yourself. What kind of safe country is this? Until I realized that some of the things we trivialize in our nation are people's way of life. Why shouldn't I trust you for meeting you the first time? If you're working now and a guy calls you, yeah, take this 50,000, you will look at him again, ritualist. His name you want to keep. Why can't people be nice? And guess what? All of these things eventually begin to form our behavior. You see, the truth is you don't understand what's going on here. It begins to form the behavior that tomorrow you want to change. How did the culture of bribery and corruption started in organizations, institutions, and all of that? Today, every leader wants to change it. When it began, he said it doesn't matter. Sometimes they tell you, sir, then you look bad for not wanting to do it that way. You become the villain. So I bring you something and then I give you bribe, and because you didn't collect, I'm angry. You are the bad person. This is Nigeria of today. And you joke, these things will cripple into your organizations. Like wildfire, it will spread. Nobody does anything until what is, you know what to do. That's the language. My question is this: how did it start? Question 2, how did we get here? Let me tell you, gentlemen, every time you say it doesn't matter, be careful. Back home. Be very careful. Because what you don't know is that, you remember the psychology of learning? I'm kind of going ahead of myself, but you need to understand this. You remember the psychology of learning? If you want to start learning a bicycle, what happens is that at first, you are trying with your conscious mind. Right? Your brain. You are conscious of everything you're holding. Have you ever seen somebody riding bicycle and leaves their hand like this? What's going on at that particular point? The thing has left his conscious mind to his subconscious mind. He's mastered it. So every single time you spot a death of an attitude, a character, a habit, and you don't put a stop to it, you will hire me to come and help you on how to break addiction. And I will charge you. It's true. He that is smoking 1 packet of cigarettes began with 1 stick, probably half. And kept on saying back on me, maybe paper, yes, my sister there, we're together in this. You get the idea? And then the time comes, we've been there, once the frustration can make you do a lot of stuff. You get it? You just find one, just tear your home economics notebook and then wrap it and, But the question is, you began gradually. That's the idea. This is how patterns are formed. And guess what? It becomes unbreakable. The same thing you willfully started, you are now begging to stop it, but you can't stop. How does gossip begin? They tell you something in confidence. A leader, you can't be quiet. You have diarrhea of the mouth. You have diarrhea of the mind. Everything about you is leaking. Somebody comes and confides in you, and then you whisper to the next person, don't tell anybody. Huh? Then the other person says, don't tell anybody. And then by what is confidence eventually becomes popular. My question is, all of these things they are tiny, they are very rude behaviors. Or how does it get to a point where a leader sustains this habit that he's attempting to stop, but can't stop it? You do this thing even in your children, as somebody who people are looking up to. Your child is watching you. I was counseling a lady one day, and the lady told me that when she was young, the father told her, it's better you drink in my front than you drink in my back. What? Guess what? 33 years later, the lady is struggling to stop drinking. Have you seen parents? Your daughter came home with iPhone 17. You didn't bother asking her where she brought it from. Leaders. You come into organization, I hate that language. And my papa business, I'm telling you, if you say it under my team, that's the last day you walk in that place. It's a dangerous mindset. And so, as leaders, people look up to us. We model for people. I have been in rooms where, by the time I was done, I've been with teams where they will say, why are you speaking like Mr. Sam? That's people, they are watching you. You're supposed to and looking. And moving on, a leader's role is not only to manage the technical aspect of change, but also to address the human side of the transition. Carry people along. And I'm going to say this here, which is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, respect people, irrespective of their age. Respect is not one-sided for every leader. They give you respect, you give them respect back. Can I be very honest with you? A lot of leaders have broken the ladders of their success because of this thing you call, this macho man. That's a him. I'm a student of him. I landed. I went to preach. I went to speak somewhere in Ghana. And by the time I was done, one of my teachers, I can't remember, what brought you to Ghana? And then one of my teachers came to me and said, you mean you turned out fine like this? I said, yes, well we give the Lord, we bless God. And then he said, Kai, things have been really tough. So I look at my shoe. And then I called my assistant and said, please, can we get him a new shoe? I remember what that teacher used to call me. He was the one that named me 1 week, 1 trouble. 1 trouble. Because after 1 week, I summoned my parents to school because I've broken somebody's teeth or I've done something. But the truth is, whilst every single leader saw a terror in this child, another leader saw otherwise. There was still a teacher that saw me, don't contribute, Alma. There was still this one teacher that would say to you, no, you're not a stupid child. You're not. So you are like that here. There are people in your department that are looking up to you. You joined everybody and say she's a useless, you call her a prostitute. But she's prostituting for condition. And nobody is patient enough as a leader to see that this person is going through trials and help them and guide them through. That's exactly what we're talking about. People are looking up to you. You are not just, let's say, for example, the MD of a company. You're also a mentor. You're also a coach. Moving on. Core aspects of leading through change. Number 1, make the vision plain. Let everybody understand where we are going to. This school, currently, we are moving into IT or tech. Let everybody understand it. Make the vision plain. We shouldn't, when you're coming here, for example, this morning, you knew where you were coming to. Make the vision plain. Put it plain. Let everybody see where we are going to. Number 2, inspire confidence. Some people can start, some people don't have the confidence. They are scared. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to take the changes. Inspire confidence in them. How do you do that? Demonstrate confidence and adaptability. When you try the things you've never done, whilst they are asking themselves, guide them through. Hold them by the hands and keep going. When you're done doing that, adapting leadership styles. How do we do? Adjust approaches to suit the needs of individuals and teams. Everybody in your team is not the same. There are some people that's why in class, some people take first. For our esteemed professors that are here, some people take first, some people take last. You taught all of them the same time. It's like that even in organizations. Everybody doesn't assimilate in the same pace. So as a leader, you need to adjust your approaches to suit respective people within your team. And then you move on to building trust. Be transparent about the challenges and the opportunities. Once you're done doing that, encourage collaboration and buy-in. Bring everybody together. Let them understand why this change is important. Until we do this in this country, unfortunately, we're not going anywhere. And then lastly, manage resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that it's not everybody in your organization that will take change. Some people will fight it. Some people will tell you that is not how they used to do it here. Before you came here, there was one Hajia that has been sitting here. This is how she's used to. Some people are going to definitely resist it. And sometimes even the people that will resist it are people above you. It's true. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. So you need to understand that all of these things are parts. And then you find ways to begin to, sort it out. Moving on, Matthew. The roles of a leader in a change management. I've said it before, but let me just summarize it. A leader is a strategist, and a leader is a coach. Ensuring that operational goals are met while motivating people to embrace. What do we mean? Strategically, the leader ensures resources, timelines, and objectives are aligned. As a coach, the leader provides emotional support, builds confidence, and maintains morale during challenging periods. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said it, but I'd like to reiterate it. You are not just wearing one cap. You wear multiple caps as a leader. One is as a coach. The other is as a mentor. You wear different caps depending on when the job needs to be done. Sometimes you can be nice. The other times you are a lion. It's true. You need all of these approaches to rule. There are times you are autocratic. There are times you are democratic. There are times you just want to be, a laissez-faire kind of person. But you need to know when to deploy which weapon in your arsenal. Otherwise, you might break people who are supposed to be mended. Okay, so moving on. We will see the practical change management strategies number 1. This is the framework, my very favorite in this part. If you want to do change, if you want to implement change, what strategy should you adopt? How do you go through change? Number 1, awareness. It could be in a personal lifestyle of yours. It could be in your conduct. Maybe you don't like the fact that you set goals every year and you don't achieve it. And you are looking at your life, the only thing that is moving in your life is just your age. You have been in that organization for long, but nothing is moving. You are not making any achievement. You are not going forward. Nothing is happening, but you've identified that you need change. Number 1 is that you must be aware. And when you are aware as a leader, what do you do for the rest of the team? Communicate the need for change. By doing what? Outlining its benefits, addressing specific pain points relevant to the organization or team. If you want to reduce maybe, let's say, malpractices, or for example, you want to change a behavior, for those of us that are working in an organization that has cross, ethnicity, people, Igbo, Yoruba, mixed in, and these people, you know what happens in Nigeria? When you hire these people, they form sects. The moment they come there, they don't know themselves from anywhere. But the moment they assemble in your organization, they begin to form sects. And the truth is, as beautiful as that might look, it can be very detrimental, it can be hazardous. So how do you bring these people and align them together? And some people will tell you in the organization, do you know who brought me here? I can't be fired. So how do you deal with things like that? So you have to tell them, what's the benefit of this change? Why is this important? And then you move on to desire. Create motivation to support the change by linking it to personal and organizational goals. So for example, in our team, we tell them that to become the leading management consulting firm, everybody within it has to be an expert in what they do. And do you know the beauty of being an expert? Think about it this way. You go to a hospital and they tell you that there is only one consultant that can solve this person's problem. And we need to fly that consultant from Germany. There is only one accountant that can solve this problem. And you know where he is? We have to pay a lot of money to bring him down here. What has he done to himself? He has empowered himself so much so that everybody is looking for him. So you have to find a way of tying people's goal to the organizational change. Because we can't afford that we are going to Lagos, some people are going to Maradi. It's not done. Everybody has to be online. And how do you do that? What are your personal aspirations in life? And how do we tie it to the global goal of the organization? Or to the general goal, rather, of the organization? Number 3, knowledge. 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 Equip teams with necessary skills through comprehensive training programs and resources, which is why I believe all of us have assembled here to discuss. Why do we need change? Why do I need to stop being the kind of leader I am right now? How many people are looking up to me? With the things I'm doing right now, am I destroying lives or am I raising them? Am I inspiring people? What difference am I making? These are the key core questions you ask yourself. And then lastly, ability. Enable execution with resources such as technical support, process guide, and monitoring. And then lastly, reinforcement. Ensure long-term adherence by celebrating milestones and integrating change to the culture. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the frameworks we call the ADCA model that you can use. By the way, we will share the slides via emails. We'll share the slides via emails. These are the models, even in your personal life, not just as an organization, you can use to run a change. For you, it could be a toxic character. For you, it could be that you don't have interpersonal relationship. You don't know how to relate with people. For you, is that you don't know how to separate work, work life, family life. Everything for you is one. All of these things require change because you need them to grow. This is a framework you can adopt in getting better and getting faster. You can be making results here and there, no problem. You have the money now, but you don't have the peace of mind because you don't have friends. I've always challenged leaders by saying, if you call somebody, if something happens to you 12 o'clock midnight, is there somebody they can call and the person will appear? On your phone, they call the person and the person answers. If you don't have those kind of people, you're not doing yourself well. You can't be surrounded with people and yet lack people. Sila. Next slide. So moving on, a case study. Now this is where we will just share this class. It's a 10-minute stuff. Give me the case study. It's a 10-minute stuff. We will just, because of the space issue we are having, we'll just share it in a group of 5. What we are going to look at is we want to break an organizational bottleneck. And I believe this bottleneck is something that surrounds us all in our organization. Zenith system struggles with a bottleneck culture. What is the bottleneck culture? Micromanagement. Leaders want to micromanage everything. You don't allow people. We said it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. In your own case, you've hired a smart person and you're still wanting to tell them what to do. So they micromanage. You want to manage, you want to be in the know of everything going on. And this thing is slowing decision making. Because managers, for example, who are supposed to take decisions are not allowed to take decisions because it has to get back to you. Number 2, fear of risk stifles innovation. Nobody wants to take risk because innovation is not you can't even be innovative. Number 3 challenge they are facing, silo team. People are working in teams, group of two. And this thing is causing communication gaps. This is the issue this organization is facing. And our task is simple. Identify what behaviors are causing these bottlenecks. Number 2, strategize what leadership action can address these behaviors. Example, empowerment, collaboration, clear communication. And then number 3, act. What's one immediate step to start culture change? Now, by the time you do this, all the teams will send us one representative here to come and share with the rest of the class members what you choose. So I think group of 5, how do we cut